morning. Good morning, sir. Unmute calling.
Hello, good morning, Professor.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. How are you, sir?
Thank you.
Fine, sir. Fine, sir. I think Craig has joined, sir.
All right, great.
Sir, we shall start in a few minutes, sir.
All right, sir. Sure.
Yes, sir. Craig? Craig, shall we start? Mr. Craig, are you okay with this meet?
Yes, Professor. Are you
Shall
able
we
to hear
start,
me?
sir? Yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm good. One second.
Wait. Mahila, wait. Yes. Yes, Mahila, you can start.
The dreamers and the doers, the believers and the thinkers. But most of all, surround yourself with those who see greatness within yourself. It gives me immense pleasure to extend a very warm welcome on behalf of the MOC team and the Department of BCom BPS Business Process Service, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, Coimbatore, who has clubbed all of us for the second day of Faculty Development Program on Experimental Teaching. Association
Prayer is the key to all the thesaurus of our lives. It works wonders and springs up from the heart. In God's supernatural presence, joy is inevitable. the Almighty in and around us, let us lend our ears to the prayer song. Thank you for invoking God's presence amidst us and making an enormous start. Fill your intense dreams in the lamp of passions, ignite it with burning flames, and see your goals in your eyes. This light gives you the strength to pursue and the courage to continue. As the start of this remarkable event, let us also light the lamp of love.
My Gurus and Almighty. Good morning, all.
Thank you for illuminating the lamp of love. Each day is special, but today is a very peculiar day for our department. It gives us immense pleasure in having Mr. Craig Gonzalez, sir, Design Consultant, Leadership Development, TCS Chennai, who has joined us as the resource person of today's program. We also deem it a great honor to have Mr. Stephen Moses Dinakaran, sir, AIP, TCS Chennai, with us today, who has always supported us behind the scenes. It is with their kind cooperation that our department strives forward. Starting from our department's inception in 2016 till date, his support has always been there for us in all our undertakings, including the placement in TCS. With their help, our department students were able to get placed in TCS with a good placement record. In the year 2019, 16 students were placed in TCS. In 2020, 28 students were placed. And in 2021, 15 students were placed, and we are still looking forward. We are happy that TCS has always been with us in our journey, with whose association today's faculty development program has been launched with 1,075 plus participants across the globe, which includes 700 plus participants from South India, 200 plus participants from North India, 10 plus participants from Malaysia, 10 plus participants from Philippines, and 10 plus participants from other countries. We are very happy and fortunate to have such people with us today. Imagine with all your might, believe with all your heart, and achieve with all your mind. Now, to welcome the exuberant gathering, I would like to call upon Dr. M. Nandini Ma'am, Associate Professor, Department of BCom BPS, SR CAS, to express her cordial.
Pronounced to my Gurus and Almighty. Good morning, all. I deem to be a great honor in welcoming you all
for this event, International Faculty Development Program, Day 2, Instrumental Design and Delivery System for Today's Learners. On behalf of our department, I would like to welcome our chief guest of the day, Mr. Craig Gonsalves, Design Consultant, Leadership Development, TCS Chennai. Thank you, sir, for your valuable presence. I would like to welcome our chief guest of the day. I would also like to welcome Mr. Stephen Moses Dinakaran, Program Leader, AIP, TCS Chennai. My warm welcome goes to our respected Principal and Secretary, Dr. B.L. Shivakumar sir, who has consulting and motivating us for the well-being process. I would like to welcome our beloved Vice Principal, Dr. S. Deena Madam, who has been a constant support in all our endeavors. I owe pleasure in welcoming Dr. J. Shanmugananda Vadivel sir, Dean, Student Affairs for this program. I take pleasure in welcoming our respected HOD and the lecturers without whom this event is impossible. I would like to welcome the budding people of Flying Colors. Hearty welcome to everyone once again. Have a great day.
For your hearty welcome. Leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their empower to empower others. Today we have such a person, Mr. Craig Gonsalves sir, Design Consultant, Leadership Development, Tata Consultancy Services, Chennai. He is a learning and development professional with 8 years of talent consultancy experience. He has worked with both startups and industry giants and is currently associated with talent development team of TCS. He is a dreamer, traveler, and a motivational speaker. We are very happy to have you with us, sir. And now I kindly request you to share your valuable insights.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think at the onset, I'd like to thank Stephen for giving this opportunity. Stephen is bigger than the chief guest. You are trying to find that word. So Stephen is the main person behind all the colleges in Coimbatore for BPS programs happening. So thank you, Stephen, for this opportunity. And also would like to thank again Dr. Padmanabhan. We keep connecting, misconnecting last year, I guess, because of COVID, but otherwise a very gracious host whenever I come to his college. And also the other students and faculty who had the wonderful welcome address and all the words of welcome that we had in this morning. So we'll get right to it. I know there are a lot of people who are going to listen to the entire program. The time for me, for those who are on the screen, for Stephen, Dr. Padmanabhan, can you just give me a thumbs up if my voice is okay, or if I need to be louder, or if okay, Deepak is giving me a nice thumbs up. I see Anita ma'am also give me a thumbs up. Okay, that's good. I hope the program is also a thumbs up going forward. So, so what we'll be doing is, I might have interacted with many of you all in Coimbatore over the last 2-3 years. This program is slightly going to be different. We're going to have it mostly one way, but I've done a few of these programs and I have a lot of participants, and I really loved yesterday the professor from Malaysia who spoke. He kind of really had so much of energy, so it's going to be a tough competition to kind of keep up that energy that he had yesterday and start with it. We'll definitely try working on the same lines. But what I'm going to also request is that while I understand that many of you all will not be sharing your cameras, I would like you to, during the course of the next 1 hour, 10-15 minutes is what I'm going to speak for. I would request you at any point of time, you have any question regarding to what I'm talking, even if it is not regarding to what I'm talking in the sphere of education, please post it. We have a lot of people over here. If I'm unable to answer it, somebody else will be able to answer it. Let's use this platform that Sri Ramakrishna has enabled, because creating a platform where we have so many faculty coming together doesn't happen every other day. So let's leverage that opportunity. So Dr. Padmanabhan, I would request one support, as and when we have people posting questions, okay? You can interrupt me at whenever I'm moving to a slide or anything, saying that, Craig, we have this question, and I'll spend time with that question. rather than spending 15 minutes at the end of the entire session answering, having a Q&A. Let's have it in between. So every 20-25 minutes, I'll try to pause and ask people if they have questions. I would love to hear people's voices. I think if you have a question that you want to ask and you don't want to type out, you can raise your hand. Don't unmute yourself. Raise your hand. And Dr. Padmanabhan will accordingly see who has raised their hand and will unmute you since he has host access, and you can then ask your question. So with that being said, I'm going to now share my screen. Stephen, would you like to say a few words, Stephen, before I get started?
Yeah, thank you so much, Craig, for the time. In fact, I should thank Professor Dr. Padmanabhan and the entire SNR, sorry, should I say, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science team. And I do see a lot of familiar faces like Professor Anita, then I see Professor Dr. Nandini, whom I have interacted, and it's been almost 2 years now that we connected, right? So it's been a pleasure and honor associating with Sri Ramakrishna College. One reason I would go by what our friend Lini mentioned, right? The way the college, we started off in 2016, and the way we have progressed, and this is one of, I say, the best colleges whom AIP had partnered with, and we have seen a very impactful, on a positive note, in terms of the way we had wanted to bridge the gap between what academia and industry requirements are. And we have been seeing the results visibly every year, year after year. If not for the able leadership of Professor Dr. Padmanabhan and support from the top management, specifically Principal Sir and the Vice Principal Sir and the Dean and I think all those people who were there, part of the success journey. And the way we have grown, I would like to take the honor and pleasure along with you in this journey. And thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to work together. And I would also like to thank my dear friend Craig. If not for Craig, most of our efforts that we had, put in, we wouldn't have been able to channelize it. The kind of dedication in terms of efforts that he has put in terms of focus that he has given. I'm sure Coimbatore colleges, especially Sri Ramakrishna College, would also vouch for when I say this. He has been with us through the journey. And I'm so happy that Craig is the speaker for today and who's going to enlighten us on the aspects of the new or the modern world that we are currently living in, which is very different from the normal world. And let us hear from him. And thank you, Craig, once again. And it's been an honor and pleasure working along with you as a part of one organization, one HR, though we work in different functions. But if not for you and your team, we would not have come this far. And really, thank you once again for the support rendered. Over to you.
Thanks, Stephen. So I'm going to share my screen. I hope we don't have the problem that I had yesterday. 1 second. Please let me know if you're able to see my screen. Are you able to see?
Yes.
You're not able to see my screen, right? Just 1 second. So what do I click, sir? I'm clicking.
It is visible now, Craig.
You're able to see it, is it?
Yeah, it is visible now.
Able to see your
email,
presentation.
But not my presentation. You're able to see my mail. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is taking a little while.
Okay, so
Or would you want me to show something, Craig? Which
perfect. Actually, good you're there. Yeah. Can you please help Stephen? Can you share the presentation on instructional design?
okay.
So while Stephen is sharing that, so what we're going to do today, at least for the next 1 hour, is that we're going to do something very interesting, because all of us watch movies, right? And all of us love the movie. We love the actor, we love the actress, we love the story, we love the way the movie is taken. But remember, the most important person to bring that movie to life um, is the person called the director. And he has another small team. You have the director, you have the editor. These people play a very important role in kind of bringing the movie to life. I don't know how many of you all had the opportunity to kind of see a movie in like the making of a movie in action. I don't know if you liked it, but I found it very boring, because I come from a school in Chennai where it's a very old school, and many times on the weekends, a lot of people come over there and kind of shoot the movies over there. And very recently, I think one of the movies that was shot that I kind of had the opportunity, because I stayed next to the school, was the movie Bigil, where especially the scene, I'm sure many of you all would have seen that movie by Vijay, the scene where the girl is in a football ground, and she's a victim of acid attack, and she encounters the person who has kind of put the acid on her. So that entire scene is shot in the football ground of the school that I studied. So it being a weekend, and me being close to the place, and hearing that Vijay is there, kind of I dropped in to see it, and I saw the move that they kept taking that scene over and over and over and over, and I don't know how many takes they would have taken for that scene to happen. For me, it was just excitement of meeting the heroes and things like that. Came back home, and then after a long time, the movie got released. And when the movie got released, when I saw the entire movie and when I saw that scene, I was like, wow, what had just happened? What I saw there and what happened in the movie is so much different. It's because the director and the editor, it was their job to kind of put things together and present it to the person who is watching the movie. But the reason I spend so much of time in explaining this to you is because all of you on this call, or all of you watching YouTube live right now, all of you are directors every day. And you are scripting the lives of 100, 200 students every year. That is how big your role is. And that's the kind of contribution that you have. And for that, I kind of salute and kind of join my hands to all of you. Because you are directing a real life story. It's not a movie. It's a live story that is actually happening. And for that direction to happen, that addition, that for all those kind of qualities to come in, many of you all have learned over the years of experience on how it should happen. What I'm going to spend with you for the next 45-50 minutes is kind of share something that I kind of had the opportunity to get trained from when I was doing a course with the London Business School, where they spoke about instructional design. Now, the whole concept of this instructional design, okay, thanks Stephen once more for putting it up. We're going to only spend a short introduction and kind of look at it today, because this program is too deep to kind of get into multiple aspects of it. This instructional design is, how do I design certain elements of the study material that goes to the student so that the student is excited, is engaged, and wants to learn. Now, I understand that many of you all might be thinking, where, Craig, these students today don't want to learn, they are not interested, they are not engaged. Again, I'm taking you and pulling you back to the movie story or the movie analogy. It is the responsibility of the director to see to it that people love the movie and make it a super hit. It is not the responsibility of the people watching the movie to just watch any movie and make it a hit. We have seen time and again where super directors, super hero stars have had flop movies. So it's not about the hero, it's not about the heroine, but it's about how they put that story together, how they edit it, and how it kind of comes in a beautiful format to the audience. And that is what you would be doing to the students, and that is the reason why we have instructional design. The three important words we are going to look at is that, or rather 5 important words, is to evaluate and revise, formative, evaluation, and summative. These 5 words are going to kind of keep coming again and again over the presentation that we are going to have. Can we move to the next slide? So before we begin, we are going to look at few things that we are going to look at. I would request if you all have pens or notes, just jot down few things. Whatever makes sense to you, whatever is relevant and you feel you can use, capture it. I will share my contact details at the end of the program, because definitely there will be moments where you will need more information. Definitely glad to kind of support and help any college, any professor that requires more information. But I would request you to capture those questions down on your notepad. And if there is something you want to get it clarified today itself, you can please put it down in the chat column as well. So we are going to look at various elements in the content today and what we're going to discuss. So Stephen, if you can hit the button 2-3 times, there are 5 things that will come up. We're going to look at how we're going to structure the content, decide on the content floor, decide the evaluation parameters, how to teach the content effectively, and how to evaluate the learners. I'm going to stay on this for 10 seconds. I want you all to look at it. Okay. Structuring the content, because content today is like big data. Big data is too much of data. And sometimes when there is too much, students look at it and say, oh my God, this is too much. So it's very important to structure it and then decide on how that content is going to flow. Very, very important elements is to decide how do we evaluate now these the parameters, and especially in today's world. And how do we teach the content effectively, and how do we evaluate the learners at the end of it? Okay, so that's what we're kind of these are challenges that we face while creating the content, and that's what we're going to look at. The next slide, Stephen. Yeah, so this is the journey we're going to quickly run through. So I'm going to just spend a second here. So we are right now at the stage where we're going to look at definition and dimensions of instructional design. We're going to go through a few slides on it. Then we're going to look at this terminology or this concept called learning objectives. Okay, we're going to look at the what, the why, and the how of learning objectives and how important it is. We're going to look at how do we structure content and how do we design content as well. Okay, that is going to be the third phase. Mapping assessments to objectives is going to happen. We might avoid this ID theories. We'll come back to it. And there are some elements of practice and further reading. We'll see how we can share that with you as well. But we're going to spend and focus on the first 4 elements predominantly. Next slide. So instructional design is the process by which learning products and experience are designed and developed and delivered. Now, earlier to COVID, we had classroom training, but now you will be into online, into instruction manuals, into video tutorials, into learning simulations, and suddenly the world is opened up to everybody and looking at various aspects of how it can happen. The next slide, I'm going to spend some time on the next slide on trying to understand how this breaks down. Stephen, the next slide. So here, I want you to look at, like any movie, right? We were talking about the movie. There is a story that comes in, and I want you to replace the content with story. Okay, so the content comes in. Now, once the content comes in, as faculty, okay, you need to look at the blue box over there which says the learning or the outcome goal. Okay, so you need to look at what will be the measurable learning outcome or learning goal of this training or this class or this session that I want to do. Now remember, always your learning outcome or your learning goal should not be that my students should pass the examination. Your students should pass the examination. If that is your learning outcome and goal, then your students will only learn to mug up and only to reproduce, to write notes so that they can pass the examination. Here I am challenging and requesting the faculty, you have clay in your hands, you have the students' lives in your hands, and you have the future of our country's mind wealth in your hands. So here at this particular stage, where the learning outcome goal stage, what you need to do is that you need to look at, if I am teaching the person on banking, your outcome and goal is that the person would need to learn how to start his business, or he should be able to learn to go and use all the functions and services in a bank. He should be able to help his parents and the elderly at home if they are unable to understand how the banking sector works. That would be a learning outcome and a goal. Now, when you start with that learning outcome and goal, then automatically your objectives and the way you are going to teach the students will start to change. And that is where the learning objectives come. The learning objectives is what specific tasks need to happen for the learners for the learning outcome and goal, for that to be achieved. How is it, can that be broken down? And that is what the learning objectives would be. Now from here, the learning objectives will break into two areas. We will look at the blue box on the left hand side, which will be the learning strategy and the teaching methods. So now once you know your objectives, okay, so I need to meet this objective. At that point of time, you will say, okay, let me structure this in a way so that the content, I can do this, I can bring in an element of a case study, I can bring in a video that I can share with them, I can do an experiential activity with them, I can do something for them, a caselet where they can work in a group and do a group discussion, and then I can bring about my studies. So the learning strategy and teaching methods will be based on what your learning objectives are. And that is very, 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 very important. And the final green box on the right-hand side is the evaluation. Finally, how do I check and evaluate whether they have learned something on what I've shared? See, remember, evaluation does not necessarily need to be always a paper and pen test. Especially in the last 1.5 years, the paper and pen test is being hit quite a bit. Our entire element to be able to capture assessments is suddenly changed. We are telling students you can have open book tests, you can do this. So it's very difficult to kind of. So again here I'm challenging and requesting the professors to look at how can I change the evaluation for my students. Now I understand that you can't do it at a very top level. There are a lot of processes, but I'm saying in your class, many level evaluations, weekly evaluations or monthly evaluations within your class, within your section. What is it that you can do differently to check whether there is something positive that's happening over here is the evaluation that will need to happen. Remember why I'm bringing this up, and I put a point over here stating that evaluation also impacts business is because tomorrow the students from college, when they come and join an organization, they suddenly find it very difficult when we evaluate them on the work they do and not on some test, paper and pen test that they take. So the good students who are getting in the 90 percentile or the 90 percentages during their examinations suddenly go through depression and find it difficult because they are like, I'm being evaluated on something else and not on paper and pen test, and that becomes very difficult for them. So it's good that at the early stages itself, you start giving them glimpses of how evaluation can happen, and that will really benefit the students as well. So before Stephen moves to the slide, quickly, the content that comes in gets broken down into 4 areas. Today, unfortunately, sometimes, okay, certain places due to various reasons, professors just deliver the content. But what I want you to think about here before we move to the next slide is that first ask yourself, what is it? Just one second back, Stephen. What is it? What is the learning outcome or goal that I want my students to have? I want you to ask that question. Remember, when you ask questions like this is when you'll be able to think more about it. Then basis the learning outcome and goal that you have identified, you will then jump into what is the learning objectives, and the learning objectives will then be broken down into which strategy can I use, which methods can I use, and finally the evaluation of how we can evaluate whether they are taking something from the program, and that is where the evaluation ends. So I'll pause here for a breather for 10-15 seconds. If anyone has any questions, any hands up before we move, because we finished the first area of just definitions of various places. Any questions, any hands up, anything in the chat, please take 10-15 seconds time. Stephen, move to the next slide. I'm just trying to check the chat 1 second. Okay, someone has asked a question some time back. Nasir, would you want to, if you can unmute yourself, you want to unmute yourself and. Nasir has dropped a question. Do you think a resource robot will be able to replace many jobs and careers in learning process in the near future? Nasir, are you on this thing? Professor, will you be able to unmute him for a second? Nasir. And while that you're trying to do that, let me try and respond to it.
I think he has posted at 10:42, sir. So I think he's.
That's before the program started, before the thing started.
Yes.
I think we started talking around that time. No issues. I
yes, sir.
that question. Do you think a resource robot will be able to replace many jobs and careers in learning process? 100% I feel a resource robot will be able to replace many jobs. I'll give you an example. Today, many of us have heard of lawyers, right? That we have as a job today. Do you know that there are processes in TCS where we have artificial intelligence reading the big data of multiple things and being able to share 90 to 95% accuracy in relation to legal advices that goes out to organizations. So we're talking about lawyers being replaced with artificial intelligent robots. I won't use the word robot, it's a little too much to go there, but artificial intelligence, AI is definitely there in the making, especially in the field of a translator. Definitely, yeah. Translator, I think it's already done, Nasir. If you look at our apps today, we have everything is taken over. So that's done. So I think you're welcome, Nasir. So any questions, please drop in, like how Nasir is doing, how you ask questions. We're moving to the next part on learning objectives. Now I'm going to spend time on learning objectives because many times we get confused on what is this learning objective. So the next slide, what are learning objectives? You will see this inverted pyramid over here. Okay. Now the broad areas is you have the learning outcome, you have the learning objective and the assessment, and then you have the specific is the teaching approach. Now, what I want you to look at is learning objectives are often confused with learning outcomes. Okay, those two, the first two things over there. So here, the learning outcome or the course goal is where we want to be. The learning outcome or the course goal is always where we want to be. Learning objectives are the steps needed to get there. Let me give you an example, and I keep throwing examples because it's just not to be theoretical. So recently, I think all of us know that COVID is something that's really struck everybody. So I'm kind of also working closely with the Chennai Corporation in kind of doing some training programs and working with the corporation in certain aspects that I'm able to help them with. Over there, so whenever we meet, they always are very clear. They're like, what is our outcome? So their outcome is that they are clear that we want group anywhere where groups are kind of meeting. We want to reduce that, and we want to educate those who are kind of getting those groups to come to kind of to avoid that for happening. And the objective, I'm not talking about learning outcome or learning objective. I'm talking only about the word outcome and objective. So when the outcome is clear, outcome is that we want to avoid mass gatherings at various places. is the outcome. Now the objective will be broken down into multiple sub levels over there. The objectives can be that what can we do for areas like a fish or a vegetable market, or for religious gatherings, or for any other gatherings in certain places like the beach and other places. What do we do? So then the objective, it breaks down, the outcome breaks down there, and that again breaks down into multiple sub objectives over there. So the outcome and objective, again I'm reiterating over here, learning outcome or course goal is where we want to be. So like I said, outcome for the greater corporation, Chennai corporation is, we want to reduce mass gatherings. That is where they want to be. And learning objectives are the steps needed to get there. So what is the objective for Chennai corporation? What are the simple steps that I need to do for me to get there? I can see a chat stating that they're not able to see the screen. Okay, so Padmanabhan says you can able to see. Cool. So Stephen, if you can just click twice. You can click twice.
So there is a question in chat box.
Yeah.
What is the difference between learning objectives and the research problem?
We'll come to that, Nasir. We'll just finish this area, and then if that question still persists, I'll come to it. Okay, we'll come to that. So, like we said, this is what it is. Now I'm going to give you an example. Okay, I would have loved to ask for somebody to share an example, but an example of learning objective and learning outcome is another example is that you're learning how to drive a car. Okay, the learning outcome would be, after I complete this training, I should be able to drive a car. That is what it needs to be. Whereas learning objectives can be slightly different. Okay. Would anyone like to just put it out on the chat? If the outcome of learning how to drive the car is to drive a car, what would be objectives that will be leading to it? Can somebody type out on the chat stating what would it be? Stephen, can you just click once? Yeah. So what would be objectives? Just give basic things of driving. Know about basic things. Beautiful, Monali. Anything else? Know about the basic things of driving is definitely there. Anybody else would like to think about what else? Attend driving lessons and obtain the valid license. So one objective will be obtain your valid driving license. Thanks, Chandran. Then understanding, to know the traffic rules also. Yes, that very true, Suman. To know the traffic rules can be one objective, and that can be one class that is there. Wonderful. So thanks for sharing. So if you click next, Stephen, for 2-3 times, you will see that identify, first of all, the working principle of a car. I remember back when I first started driving, the first thing is that you have that ABC that you have. You have the accelerator, brake, and you have the clutch. So it's a very common principle that people need to understand. From right to left, you have the ABC. Then recognize the different parts of the car. It's very important to know what are the various parts of the car. Then you need to identify the functions of each part of the car. Like, for example, what if there is a flat tire? What is this? What is that? And multiple, what is a jack? And those various things. And like I think Suman also said, knowing traffic rules, learning how to navigate with Google Maps, all this can be additional objectives. We've just put down 3-4 over here. Will be added on, because all this will lead to me being able to reach the outcome of learning how to drive a car. So I'm just pausing here on this stage over here. The learning objectives and learning outcomes, you need to have clarity whenever you pick up your content. Learning outcome is where I want to be. Simple for you to understand. Learning objectives is the journey, the steps that I need to get to that particular place is what the learning objectives are. So before I move, just have a look at the slide, just read through the slide, because the next slide we're going to get into the differences between this outcome and objectives a little bit more with definition. And I think, Nasir, your question would be answered in the next slide. So let's move on, Stephen. Super. So over here, I'm going to just stay on this screen for some time. So I'll give you 60 seconds. I don't want to read it out from the screen. That's the worst thing to do in a virtual session. But since I've got content on the screen, I'm going to just keep it on there for 30 seconds. Have a look at it. And then if you have questions, you can pop it up. Else I will start kind of running through that, what is there. 30 seconds, just read through what is there. So what we've done here is we've broken down the outcome and the objectives into the definition, into characteristics, and also an example. So while you would have read it, to put it in simple logic is the outcome is basically, I'm again trying to give an analogy or example of movies. When the director is sitting with the writer, he will say, at the end of this movie, I want to call this movie a crime thriller. That is the outcome. That is the movie goal. When people watch the movie, they should call it a crime thriller. Now, for this to be a crime thriller, I need to have elements in the movie that is thrilling. And that's why I need to have some interesting elements in the first half. During the interval, I need to have a nice twist over there. So all these objectives that he will put will lead to the outcome. And that is the difference between outcome and objectives for a movie. Now, coming to the example given on the screen, the outcome of the example for a learning outcome is, at the end of this entire course, the person will need to be able to write emails effectively. Whereas for an objective, that person will be able to apply the 10 rules of writing emails to customers properly. There is a difference between the first example and the second example. And that is the example that is given over here. For you in your classes, your learning outcome, every semester when you are taking a subject, you need to have a maximum of 3 to 5 outcomes from that entire subject that you are teaching them in a semester. Each of these outcomes or goals will have sub-objectives that will need to happen. And that is what the learning objectives comes into play. See, reading this characteristic is very important. In learning outcome, it is the broad aspect of the behavior change. Whereas in learning objective, it is the specific change that needs to happen. In the learning outcome, it is broad. In the learning objective, it is specific. The reason why this is very important in instructional design is because many people misunderstand learning outcome and learning objective. Learning outcome cannot be every class. You cannot have a learning outcome. Every class you might have a learning objective, and at the end of 1 month you might have a learning outcome. That is very important because your learning outcome will have multiple objectives that will help you meet your outcome. That is the intent of having this particular slide over here. Can we move to the next? Now you can ask me, so Craig, we are spending time over here. So Nasir, learning outcome is the result where L0, perfect, Nasir. I think next time we'll get you also to come and join me and we can co-facilitate together. Wonderful statement. Learning outcome is a result and learning objective, while you put both LO, learning objective is a process. Oh, it's also a journey. Wonderful. Okay. Now, why do we need learning objectives? Many of you might be asking this question. One is to identify the purpose of the intervention. What are we trying to do? Identify the desired results. Identify the methodology that we need to use to get there. How it helps us to create a plan to measure success. And how do we evaluate and assess learners? All this is possible only if we are able to put a learning objective into place. If there is a learning outcome, it becomes very difficult. And remember, in meeting all these objectives, your result will be positive, your result will be successful. That is what is very, very important. We will not get into this example over here. This is more for a group discussion. Let's move. So I think many of you would have seen this characteristics of a good learning objective. You all would have heard, but I'm just reinstating it because sometimes while we know certain things, doing it becomes a problem. And that is the reason why we have this. I'm just pausing. I see Dr. Anjana's got a question. Professor Padmanabhan, can you just unmute Dr. Anjana if you can, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr. Anjana, if you are unmuted, if you can go ahead with your question. Okay, it was by mistake. No problem, Dr. Anjana. Okay, so learning objectives should be, we were talking about learning centric and smart. They need to be, you need to keep the learner in the center of whatever you're doing. And smart, like how Stephen is showing you right now, they need to be specific, they need to be measurable, they need to be achievable, relevant, and targeted and time bound. I'm sure many of you all would have heard of SMART earlier, but professors, I really request you, while this is a theoretical concept we train, multiple times we fail to kind of look at it. Specificity, being specific to what we're trying to do becomes very difficult. Measuring what we want from our objective is something that we miss. It also needs to be achievable for the learner. See, remember, I'll give you an example here. Very recently, I was kind of having one coaching session and I was telling this person, it's like going to the gym. Now, on the many people, right? I don't know how many of you all have noticed this, but gym membership is very interesting. They will charge you something like 12,000 rupees for the year, which works up to 1,000 rupees a month. Whereas they will charge you 4,000 rupees per month as another option. They will tell you, you either pay 4,000 rupees per month or you pay 12,000 for the year. Now, when the person goes and he wants to start going to the gym to either be fit or reduce weight, he would be like, I want to take the year package. The reason why the gym people are happy to give that membership, because they have got big data and they have got record that out of 100 people who take the yearly subscription, only 20% of them continue after the third month also. And that is where they become very successful, because people just drop out and they don't come back to the gym. Now, the reason they don't come back to the gym is because when they come there, it could be a reason where they look around and they see everybody is like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they are all very built. And then they become, oh my God, what is going to happen to me? They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do specifically to train on. They don't know how to measure whether they are succeeding or not. They don't know whether those targets are achievable, and those targets are targeted or time bound. And because of that, they stop the gym. But good gym members, gyms where they have coaches, they will come and they will work with you and they will say, we will work on this specific area. On Mondays, we will look at upper body. On Tuesdays, we will look at your abs and then lower body. And then we will look at cardio. We will measure. We will start by taking measurements of your arms and everything. And we will see how you are improving every month. We will see to it, we will set small targets for ourselves. If you're able to run 1 kilometer in the first week, you hopefully run 2 kilometers by the second week, and so on. So in gym, the coaches kind of plays the role of bringing in a SMART goal. Whereas in colleges, you as professors, you need to look at the various students. Many of them come with different dichotomy of experience. Okay, some will be fast learners, some would be slow and laggard learners. You need to kind of club them in groups and try and be specific and accordingly give them achievable targets. Many reasons why students fail to kind of want to learn is because they feel that they are really bad and that they can't do anything about it. Very interestingly, if you look at Steve Jobs, if you read his book on that Steve Jobs has written, he says that in class he found that the teachers were looking at things very differently, and he was feeling very left out, and that's why he wanted to kind of do things by himself and do things separately. So you as a faculty, you have the kind of clay in your hands that you need to work on. So you need to see how is it that you can make it specific, measurable, achievable, and time bound. So here I'm going to again do a pop quiz over here while we come to 11:20 on pop quiz. Can somebody tell me, based on what we spoke, just type out in the chat, we are trying to teach usage of fire extinguisher to adult learners. Okay, you're using a web-based training program. Which of the following learning objectives for this training program would be termed as SMART? What do you think would be the answer? Can somebody just type out A, B, C, or D, or E in the chat quickly, so that we'll be able to kind of gauge whether is it recognize? Okay, Monali saying recognize the key parts of fire extinguisher. Okay, anybody else? Is it? Would you be able to say that the learner is able to explain the working principles of a fire extinguisher? What is it? A, B, C, D, or E? Can we see a few more answers before we kind of discuss the answer? D. Ramya says D. Chandran says D. Mahalakshmi says D. Okay, a lot of people are saying D. So I think it's not just because many are saying D, but D is the right answer. So Monali, the reason is at the end of the program, no, is exactly what we were talking about a little earlier. Imagine, Monali, if you go through this WBT and you at the end of the WBT you're able to recognize the key parts of a fire extinguisher. Tomorrow, hopefully this does not happen, but imagine there is a fire that breaks out somewhere, and everybody looks at Monali and says, Monali, you only went through that training program recently on fire extinguisher, please save us. And at that point of time she says, well, do you see that key over there? That is called safety latch. Do you see that hose over there? That is called the fire extinguisher hose. Then they will tell you, Monali, but no one is asking you to recognize the parts. We want us to save. She's like, no, that I'm not too sure. When I went through the program, I was able to recognize the key parts of a fire extinguisher. And that is where, Monali, while I kind of bring this just in humor, the importance is that they would have set this based on the outcome. The outcome or the goal, the learning outcome would be, if they had set the WBT that way, saying that I want the learner to learn about the key parts, means this is what would have happened. Whereas if they said during a fire in a college, the students need to be able to take care of themselves and administer initial safety before the fire squadrons come, then D becomes the objective, and D becomes the action that needs to happen. So that is exactly what many of you have also shared. Again, some have said E. Hari Prasad, Nasir, I hope you understood what we were talking about. A and E are also the same. Identifying the steps to use a fire extinguisher is slightly better than A, but still knowing how to use a fire extinguisher is an actionable item. And that is what plays a very, very important role. So at an initial stage, I agree, Monali, at an initial stage, but at the end of the day, what is that initial stage becomes a problem. So if it is going to be, there are multiple WBTs and the first WBT is covering this, then what happens is that then it's perfectly fine. If it is the entire WBT, you want them to be able to understand how to use a fire extinguisher and what needs to happen. So thanks everyone for your participation. It's really nice. If you can move to the next, Stephen, please. So here I quickly want to quickly talk to you about this person. I think it's very important when we talk about instructional design that we put this person's photo. I don't know whether many of you would have heard. You would have heard of this word called Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, there is this person, Mr. Benjamin Samuel Bloom. He was the person who kind of introduced this. The taxonomy expresses thinking and learning through a set of concepts, starting with lower order thinking concepts, where if you want a person to improve, you need to start with knowledge, then move to comprehension. Comprehension means understanding. Application means putting into practice what you have understood and learned from knowledge. Analysis is after putting application, what am I able to analyze and what am I able to see. Synthesize is working and playing around with it. Evaluation is to see what can come out of it. Hari Prasad has raised his hand. Hari Prasad, you want to type it in the chat, or you want to, Dr. Padmanabhan, can you unmute Hari Prasad, yes, please? Dr. Padmanabhan? So Hari Prasad, I think Dr. Padmanabhan is having some issue.
No, I'm in.
Okay, thanks.
I think Hari Prasad.
If you can unmute Hari Prasad quickly.
Yeah, he can unmute himself, so no problem.
Hari Prasad, can you ask your question?
You can proceed, sir. I think.
Okay. So we were talking about lower order thinking and higher order. So in colleges, no, I would request that at least we are able to get students not to just comprehend, mug up, and learn the knowledge, but to be in the space of application and analysis. And that is something that today our colleges is missing, because when students come to work, they are theoretically very good, but they don't know how to apply it. And in today's world, there are many opportunities for this to happen, and that is the reason why it will really help us to kind of look at what can happen over there. So Suman has put a question. Many of students who have very good academic results fail to cope up with real life scenarios in cases of misfortune. Do you feel that we're lacking in life skills management and thought less on it? So Suman, very true. Here, what I would request, not just you, but all the faculty, good that you brought up this, so I'm just using this as a forum to share. Many times, the reason why they are very good in academics is because the learning outcome is also, I want them to be good in academics. So when your outcome of the college or your program or your course or your subject becomes, I want them to be good in academic, they will do well there and they will fail in other things. So if your outcome, like we spoke about earlier regarding the banking example, your learning outcomes need to be larger, more broader, then they will be able to understand it. Definitely life skills management is definitely part of it. But I'm saying you can try and incorporate life skills management in every single subject that we do. If we can bring in at least 10% of life skills management in every subject, rather than life skills management being a separate course or separate once in 3 months doing one activity, rather try bringing 10% of it into your modules would really definitely help you quite a bit. And I think I don't know, I'm sure many of you would have read this about Japan and about China, how the students are taught at a very young age to clean the restrooms, to kind of clean the cafeteria after they finish eating. So cleanliness is taught to them not as a theoretical aspect, but it's taught to them as a culture and a value. And that becomes a part of various things that happens to them, and that's why as a country they keep things clean, or they take care of things when they are doing something. That is very, very, very important. So a good question, Suman. So here, while we are talking about this, what has happened recently, the reason I'm sharing this Bloom's taxonomy, while many of you would have heard it, I want to let you know that this is being revised. This is in 1950s, slightly old, right? So this has been revised. So in the next slide, this is exactly what I wanted to bring up over here. In the next slide, Stephen, you would see the revised 21st century taxonomy. Now, the interesting thing over here, and I want you to understand this example. Now, in 1950, when he was teaching, Dr. Bloom was teaching, there was a student called Lauren Anderson, who kind of started started with understanding the knowledge that Mr. Benjamin gave, comprehended it, applied it, analyzed it, And then he started playing around with it and he created this taxonomy. So can you see a real life example of how a professor and a student, the student has now shared this, which now the all organizations and institutions are using this revised one. And this is a perfect example of how Mr. Benjamin Bloom would be so happy that his student has come to a stage where he's able to create, and that is the higher order. So if you go to the next slide, there to bring the difference between the two, Stephen, the next slide. Over here, you will look at two aspects over here. Okay, one aspect is the aspect of on the left hand side you have the Bloom's, and on the right hand side you have the latest 21st century. So if you see, the words are slightly similar, but there is one particular difference. Anyone can see where that difference is? Anyone wants to quite quickly put it up in the chat? What is the one very important difference? Knowledge is remember, comprehension is understand, application is apply. Beautiful. What about create, Monali? So if you see create, create and synthesize are almost same, but he has put evaluate the person and then let the person create. Whereas in Bloom's taxonomy, evaluation is the end of it. That is, the person gets evaluated. But here, create becomes the end of it. And that is what we want our students to become. When our students do BCom and they do this, we want them to become great businessmen. We don't want them to pass in distinction. We want them to be ethical businessmen when they are in India or when they go abroad. We want them to follow the rules and be able to pay tax and do things. That is what kind of outcome we want when we do our programs and when we take our classes for our students. And that's what needs to happen. Exactly, Amit. Version, any theory? I think I'll share my details. We can connect. Suman will share with you some more details on the 21st century version as well over there. So here, before I kind of think again, Stephen, if you can move 2 slides, because the next one is again move this. We'll just come back. Yeah, on this slide. There's a small activity, but we won't do the activity. So we hear what are action verbs and why do we need them? I'm sure many of you would have seen done Bloom's taxonomy. So an action verb is basically a verb that expresses physical or mental action and behavior. Now, why is it important when you create learning objectives? Using these verbs that are measurable, you indicate what the student needs to do in order to demonstrate this learning. Like, let me give you an example. Go to the next slide. So click next. So here, a little bit of help I need. So remember, don't click everything. Yeah. So it's the behavior. So if the behavior element is to recall, recognize, and identify concepts. Just click once, Stephen. If the behavior is this, what kind of verbs we will need to do? Since we are running short of time, I'm not going to ask you the answer. Predominantly, the verbs that are there in Bloom's action verbs, you will use verbs like recognize, list, identify, describe, name. So click next, Stephen. So for you to bring out that behavior, you need to use these words in your class for them to be able to, in your modules, for them to remember something. The next one is for understanding. In understanding, if you want to, the kind of behavior you want them to comprehend the meaning, explain data in their own words. Then the kind of verbs, click next, Stephen. The verbs you would look at is, you'll use the verbs like interpret, summarize, infer, paraphrase. So these are the kind of things that will need to come up over there, explain and exemplify. So these are very important and important things. So just keep running through. Let them all have a look at it. Keep going through. This is just for them to. So I'm just staying on this second for 30 seconds. Look at this. You can always connect with me post to see. It's very important to use words. So in your modules, in your presentations, if you want people to analyze, if you want your students to analyze, you need to use words like compare, deconstruct, share outline, integrate, give structure. Now, these kind of verbs will make them think about it. If you want them to evaluate, then you will use different kinds of words like assess, estimate, critic, experiment. All these kind of things will need to come into the play. So we'll just be there for a second over here. Just move to the next slide. Just click next. I want to move to an example for the sake of time. Okay, now I'm going to come to an interesting example. Okay, now I'm a foodie. Okay, Stephen knows that well about me, and that's one reason I love coming to Coimbatore. I just love one is the weather in Coimbatore, and also all the restaurants in Coimbatore. Okay, so here we are going to look at something. We are going to try and do this. I'm going to look at verbs that we're going to use over here, and the example we're going to look at is how do we cook dal. Okay, can you click next? Okay, so what kind of verbs would be used over there? Just to give you an example of create, evaluate, analyze. So let's start with remember. Okay, so when you're doing it you're doing a session with the people who are learning to cook. Click next, Stephen. Okay, next, yeah. So that's the pictures over there. Let's start with the first one. Next. So remember, yeah. So remember. So here you see the words. Recognize the ingredients required to cook dal fry. The word recognize. Identify the portions of each ingredient. Identify. List the steps to cook dal fry. So list. So those are words that come in for remember. Now if you look at understand. Summarize. Now you're asking the class. Okay, you're asking the cooking class. So, dear friends, summarize the steps required in the process to cook dal fry. That's why summarize comes in. Then explain the process to cook dal fry. Then you're asking them to apply. Use the correct ingredients to cook it. That's why they are using it. Then analyzing. Interpret how each ingredient adds a different flavor. How is it that at the end when you're putting when you're roasting the curry leaf, or when you're roasting the onions, or when you're roasting the jeera and putting it on the top, how is it? So that is what needs to happen. Evaluate how optimal is the process of cooking dal fry. And interesting part, create, the last part. Over there you'll see, devise a new process to cook dal fry. Now, the reason I've shared this is because I know there are professors from different lines of work over here. Okay, what I want you all to look at is, I want you to see, okay, friends, we spend most of our time only in remember and understand. That is the reason why I kind of wanted you to break this down for you all. Only time on remember and understand. We do not venture into apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And I hope that with what I was able to share with you today, you're able to kind of look at and try and dissect it and look at and see whether you are able to use application, analysis, evaluation to help create and make something like this something happen. So over here, I'm going to quickly again pause if there are any questions. Okay. If not, what I'm going to do is, Stephen, if you can stop this presentation and pull up VILT do's and don'ts quickly. While you do that, I'll just, I think Dr. Sivaranjani has got a question. You want to unmute yourself or you want to drop a question, Doctor?
Dr. Sivaranjani, you can unmute and you can ask your question.
No issues. I think it might have been an accident. So friends, the reason why I kind of wanted you to kind of look at these various aspects is for you to understand that in instructional design, it's very important that these stages get covered. One is I wanted to make you understand about outcomes and objectives. And in objectives, how Bloom's taxonomy really helps is what I wanted to kind of make you look at. I always believe in the concept of less is more. I don't want to tax you with too much of information, because my outcome of this program is that I want you to take something, apply it for the students, and help the students become better learners. That is my outcome. And through that, I brought in this objective of bringing in two aspects. One aspect is the aspect of making you understand learning outcomes and objectives. And the second aspect is the Bloom's taxonomy. Remember and understand is what we do mostly in colleges. I wanted you to experiment and try, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. As a college, your entire area will improve in terms of this kind of students' mentality and thinking, and that is what I wanted you to take away. One more outcome I wanted is that while I know many of you are doing sessions still in a VILT mode, I wanted to share a presentation that I recently kind of prepared for faculty within TCS. So we have faculty within TCS who kind of train the students who come from colleges. Quickly, I just put out few points, just 10 steps to make your sessions more effective. So if you can click the button, click on must do, Stephen. Just click on must do. Okay, so in must do, we are looking at 5 points over here. So the first point that we want you to look at is, just go to the next, Stephen. Yeah, so test the tech. It's very, 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 very important that whenever you do your training programs from an instructional design perspective also, test the technology that you're working on, be clear about it. The second one is always have the big picture. That is what we spoke about today, right? I'm trying to make it simple. This is like the trainer I'm trying to share with you. The big picture is all about making the person understand, the student understand, what will he benefit by him listening to your class for the next 1 hour, or for the next 1 month, or for the next 3 months. So explain to him. So start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind, keeping in picture what is it you want the person to take away. Show and tell. When you're doing virtual training programs, try using YouTube, try using examples, try using images, make them understand it. When you are taking a class where you have 40 students or 50 students, follow the 10-minute rule. What is the 10-minute rule is, try to speak only for 10 minutes. 11th minute, try engaging, asking them to chat, asking them to put a question, you asking somebody a question. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it today because of the magnitude of the number of audience over here. But in a classroom where you have 50 students, you can definitely follow the 10-minute rule and break before they break. So what does that mean? It's simple as always give them a break and try to keep it at 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And that's what we're looking at. The next one is, the final one is, the next move, Stephen. What you shouldn't do, okay? Here, don't click next. Don't assume. So especially for first year students, don't assume that they already would know about it. They already have learned it. Everyone comes with a different pedigree of learning. So as a teacher, as a professor, as a guru, you are a person who kind of shapes their lives. So don't assume that they know about too many things. So that's very important. Second step is don't talk big. Now there's a difference between big picture and don't talk big. Sometimes I've seen this especially with accounts professors or statistics professors. What happens is, because we are day in and day out in our line and we have become subject matter experts, we start talking at a level where they look at us thinking, what is this person talking? So you will need to try and break it down, make it simple. That is again where I'm coming back to instructional design. Keep the learning outcome in mind and break down your objectives. See how is it that I can make the person understand first, understand the knowledge, analyze the knowledge. So those are important things that this needs to happen. Beautiful, Chandran. Accounting is another area. Keeping it very simple. It can be a very difficult subject. I had a lovely professor in college, and who really helped me. And till today, I love accounts and finance. Don't read out. Try not to keep reading out from the screen. Try using students. Okay, ask them. That way they will also be attentive in the virtual mode. You can tell somebody, can you read what's on the screen right now? make your presentation in a way like how I'm doing it right now. It comes one after the other. All the points did not come out over here. So try doing that. Next point is don't ridicule. See, end of the day, they are all going through a phase in their life as teenagers or as adolescents where they might be girls in the class or whatever, and you don't want to ridicule them, and then they'll start to feel small. And sometimes as professors we get our power in trying to ridicule someone and trying to do that. That really puts the person in their shell and breaks them from learning and doesn't meet your objective or the learning outcome that we want to do. So in TCS, we believe in respecting individuals, and that's the reason why I put that point out over there. And I'm sure many colleges also are very strict on various aspects like this. So as a professor, you can, especially on a virtual mode, you should be able to not ridicule students over there. And the last point I wanted to quickly share with you is don't multitask at all. Never multitask. Don't do this and try doing something else as well. Try to keep your time apart. And that is why it's important even for the professor, if you're doing virtual, try to have 30-minute, then take a small break. It's important for you to get up, move around, and do something before you keep running your sessions. If not, you will also burn out. And that's the last thing we want somebody is our professors burning out. The next slide will show you just a synopsis of all that we spoke regarding these 10 points. Stephen, if you can move to that slide. Yeah. And like I started at the start, I kind of promised that the session would be for an hour to an hour 10 minutes, because for me, I wanted to give you something that you can take away and go, and not just it to be another checklist faculty development program. Because whenever I do something, I look at the outcome, I look at the objectives. While I would have definitely love to interact with all of you all, I definitely interacted with few of you all who were there on the chat. Thanks so much for that. I would definitely share my contact details on the chat immediately after this is over. Please get in touch if you need any help, support with regards to what we were talking. I really had a lovely opportunity. Thank you once again.
Over to Lini.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable insights on instructional design and delivery system for today's learners. The feedback link is posted. I request the participants to kindly fill the feedback form. The real gift of gratitude is that the most grateful you are, the most presentable you become. To express our gratitude, I would like to call upon Ms. P. Valadmati Ma'am, Assistant Professor, Department of BCom BPS, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, to deliver the vote of thanks.
A very good morning to one and all present here. Gratitude is the sign of noble souls. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks on this special occasion. First of all, I would like to thank the Almighty for making this day a wonderful success. On behalf of Department of BCom BPS, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, I owe special gratitude to our today's resource person, Mr. Craig Gonzalez, Design Consultant, Leadership Management, Tata Consultancy Services Chennai, for having accepted our invitation and spent his valuable time with us. I'm sure we are enlightened by your words, sir. Thank you so much. I extend my deep regards and gratitude to Mr. Stephen Moses Dinakaran, Academic Interface Program, Tata Consultancy Services Chennai, for always supporting us and providing opportunity to organize such events. Thank you, sir. I would like to record my sincere thanks to our beloved Principal and Secretary, Dr. B.L. Shivakumar, sir, Sri Ramakrishna College of Arts and Science, for his enormous encouragement and support. Thank you, sir. I extend my heartfelt thanks to Vice Principal Dr. S. Deena ma'am for her warmful wishes and valuable presence. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank Dr. G. Shanmuhananda Vadivel, sir, Dean, Student Affairs, for his constant guidance. Thank you, sir. I would especially thank our HOD, Dr. V. Padmanabhan sir, for his unfaltering motivation and confidence in us. Thank you, sir. It's not possible to organize such event without a good team backed with. I convey my hearty thanks to my fellow colleagues for their overwhelming effort in completing today's event a successful one. I extend my thanks and appreciation to MOC team, technical team, student coordinators, and students of DPS family for their untiring work. My deep sense of appreciation and thanks to all the participants who chose to be live with us and attended this session with great enthusiasm. Once again, I thank you all for your energetic participation. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, ma'am, for your words of gratitude. Thank you, dignitaries, for your valuable presence, and thank you all for spending your valuable time with us and making this day a great success. Thank you all.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Craig.
you.
My sincere thanks to you for this wonderful session that you have done for us. Professor Valarmati, I think I'm no more, stranger for Sri Ramakrishna College. I'm part of your team. So, thanks is both of us to Craig, who is, amidst his busy schedule, he was able to squeeze in and, have an interactive session with us. Looking forward to have more such sessions with Craig, and wish to have those sessions in person. Keeping fingers crossed. Thank you so much, and wishing you all the best for the remaining 3 days of this FTP program. Thank you, Craig, and see you all. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.